Hey, Balde. So quickly, let me know if you can hear me. You know, let's have a quick conversation. Dégg bi wala ndaw kenn du fi daw de dégg rek la ñuy waxante fii dégg bi da ngeen koy teg si yoon wala luy xew na xew, you know. But like, you know, for the first time I want to talk about the TRRC, which I have never done, but it's important we do so. Because xam nga yaaga dégg rek mooy mujjee. So dëkk bu nekk nag si dégg rek ngeen koy teg. And Gambia cannot be an exception, you know. So if you can hear me, just let me know, and then we're able to get it going. And you know, we wouldn't be here after anybody or whatsoever, but we will tell you the facts as they are. You know, and shying away from those talks will not put our country on the right footing. So what I really want to look at is the way the TRRC was constituted, the kind of people who were there, and what exactly they were doing, and some of the utterances and statements and the actions they were doing within the commission. First, look at it from the military's perspective. The first person who actually testified at the TRRC with a doctored voice, and his face was not showing, was General Masane Kinte. General Masane Kinte is a disgusting tribalist, just like you actually alleged Yaya Jammeh. Why did the TRRC feel that Masane Kinte's face did not need to show, as well as his voice needed to be doctored? We are not dumb. We got folks all over the Gambia, and we know people who were actually running the system. So Masane Kinte, the TRRC deliberately gave Masane Kinte the first person to testify. Calling me God. So you actually gave Masane Kinte that doctored voice, remove his face, trying to hide him. You cannot hide Masane Kinte. So Masane Kinte said everything that he needed to say. The same Masane Kinte was kept there as, you know, chief of defense staff. But how can you excuse Masane Kinte for everything that Jammeh was doing, when Masane Kinte was one of those architects of everything that was happening within and around Jammeh's inner circles? He served that regime to the best of his ability. In its good and bad deeds, Masane Kinte was key within it. But Masane Kinte is the first person to institute in the army clinics that if you come in there, the form you feel, you have to feel in your tribe. You know why? They wanted to know how many Jolas were in the army. Mane. Then aga for hamantane fong nyuande dega. So dega rek mo yobu deka bi. We will not shy away from it. The rest of the people can be silent and be looking at you. I will not, because the regime is as disgusting as everything that you accuse Jammeh of. Now, what is the essence of in military clinics? You actually asked soldiers who would go there for medical whatsoever to write their tribes or their ethnicities in those forms. What exactly was the military looking for? Of course, to know how many of these people we have here that are probably Jolas. That's what you wanted to know. But again, let's look at it explicitly with the vehicles, because 16 vehicles were taken to the airport when Jammeh left. Only 3 were put in the cargo. Where are the 13? They went loose in thin air. Where did the government put them? You know, we got to look at, because you cannot just continue to ignore. But again, it is the same regime that told us that one of those persons who was the lead investigator for Yaya Jammeh, who wanted to kill Yaya Jammeh in a coup d'etat, was the one who was going to investigate him. So where is justice, and where is basically the right personnel to actually run commissions in the Gambia? So Batambedu, in every way possible, is a disgusting human being who did not do good for the country. So if you want to justify the actions of Batambedu, go and justify it anywhere. You come with your bullshit, we give you bullshit. It's as simple as that. Now, if you want to go further on matters related to Ba and all the things that he was doing, Ba knew very well that Alhaji Sedi Barrow picked guns against Jammeh. Now, knowing that Alaji Sedi Barrow picked guns against Jammeh, give me a second, let me just sit on the ground. That would do better. I'm just running away from my daughter's noise. So, by knowing fully well that, Alaji Sedi Barrow probably raised guns against Jammeh, know that that's a conflicted party in every way possible, cannot be the person to investigate Yahya Jammeh. But still appointed him to be the person to investigate Jammeh. But how can you investigate Jammeh when you wanted to kill Jammeh? Why did the military feel that Masane Kinte would actually speak with a doctored voice and as well, without his image showing? Yet you bring all other people so that their images can show. It was the same Masane Kinte that went to the military and instituted that anybody who goes to the military clinic need to put what their tribes were. Masane Kinte is as disgusting as whatever you people might be alleging Jammeh of. And then what did he do thereafter? He started sacking Jolas in the military. We will talk about it. We will not shy away from it. You get it? We will not shy away from it. We will talk about it. Because this is what happened. So, running away from some of these things and you say, oh, they are sensitive. It's not sensitive. It is how our government was running the system. And we got to talk about it. When Jammeh did it, we said Jammeh was only appointing Jolas in key positions. That is wrong. Now, if you said Jammeh was appointing only Jolas in key positions, that is wrong. You came into the army. What did you do? You asked people to write what their tribes were on forms. Imagine somebody going to hospital. What has your tribe got to do with forms in a military setting? That the military forms now in the military clinics actually had positions where you got to feel what your tribe was. This was basically what Masane Kinte did. But why did the Gambia government want to protect Masane Kinte and made him speak, in a doctored voice and as well as, hide his image? Why did the TRRC never talk about the December 30th attack? Because one of those attackers was the lead investigator of Yahya Jammeh. And of course, it is alleged that even the lead counsel was part of that plot. So, but specifically, we will look at Almami Manga's case. He is my friend. He is my good brother. He stood by me in terms that nobody did. And then I will be there to wish him happy birthday. Anybody who did not like that, whichever political divide you belong to, deal with it. But first, I think I never even spoke to Manga about this particular matter. When it happened, I was like, okay, if this is what happened, probably you got to deal with it, because whatever that is, it's your job and it has to do with the job. Fix it, bro, But the fact of the matter is that if you said first, Almami Manga detained and put behind bars a woman and a baby, and, they charged, a baby of 8-9 months. Does that make any sense? That the police can charge a baby of 9 months. How can you charge a baby of 9 months? Usain Obojang is in jail with his lactating sister. The sister's baby is not charged. When she was to be put in prison, she had to give out the baby for the people to take the baby home. And it's almost 2 years and she, her baby is out there when you people are incarcerating this person for no fucking good reason. But what had happened with that case? Of course, if you are arrested and the police felt that, the court would have, giving you, or discharged you, and they rearrested you in a way, and they put Banjul station does not even have a prison for women. So how could you even say that Manga had put this particular woman in prison? How? Sit behind the counter. Oh, I'm going to sit there with my baby. Of course, if the people that were there in that police station decided that, yes, you can sit there with your baby, if you think that is wrong, bring that out. But when the TRRC was constituted, when you bring in people to talk about other people and they are adversely mentioned, what do? You invite them to get their part of the story. You never invited Manga. You never gave him the benefit of the doubt. All you said is, we are not giving prominence to these Jola boys. We heard it. You said it. Yo, esafal, gen lo med Jola. The rest of the commissioners, including Amilet Sose Kunane Jola, and you problem. Yen ngen gen ben Jola. Ban Jola ngen fi gen. Now you sit at your TRRC, you told us that, you know what, we are not giving prominence to these Jola boys. Of course, we know you will not give prominence to those Jola boys because every Jola is considered, a Jammeh ally. I personally don't care. When Jammeh was president, when he became president, I was just a year or two old, so I wouldn't know whatever that was, I only got aware of politics towards 2016, 17. But at the end of the day, some of you can claim, oh, it is our our struggle. The struggle does not belong to any one of you. It does not belong to any tribe. Jammeh's removal was a perfection of a combination of factors. Not just one single individual can beat your chest and say, you know what, I removed Yahya Jammeh here. Including some of you who had no even voting rights. You would have been elsewhere when people were struggling in the Gambia with Jammeh and the things that he was doing. All of a sudden, it all belongs to you. You are the ones who actually did it. We got to the point that we got to tell the truth to each other. Before we actually talk about, commissions here and there, we look at the justice system. Because if Batambedu told us that he appointed Kurang on the basis that he was non-partisan, but of course somebody who actually, raised arms to kill Jammeh was, of course, non-partisan in that way that he could be his lead investigator. It would never make sense. It doesn't make any sense. If he said Jammeh could not go with the vehicles, only 3 were put in the cargo, where is the 13 vehicles? Where did you put them? I think Barrow's regime and everything around it has become a collective action problem for Gambians, irrespective of your ethnicity or whatever. But Gambia need to be put on the right footing. Jammeh did a lot of wrongs, and this government is continuing that because it started on that bad footing. And the likes of Masane Kinte can never say anything to Gambians. Because I don't even understand why you think Masane Kinte could come and testify, with a doctored voice and, of course, out of camera. But it's the same TRRC that told us that testifying, at the TRRC was voluntary. Now, if Yankuba Ture told you he is not going to testify, why did you have to put your cameras on him to make Gambians angry so that you can arrest him and put him in live imprisonment when testifying was just voluntary? How do you explain that? Balo Kante and other people who killed people and killed their relatives, oh yeah, those coupists, you refer to them as what? They are saints. You know what? No matter how terrible Yahya Jammeh's government is a coup, and a coupist cannot be the one investigating Yahya Jammeh. That's wrong. It does not actually, level up with any, human reasoning. You get it? So the TRRC was specifically meant to target a certain people, and that is why they could not hide it. And sometimes you can see it in their voices. Like Amelet Sosa said, oh yeah, the people of Fonyi are basically the problem of this country. Let me tell you, I'm not from Fonyi. I have no, whatever contact or relations in Fonyi. That doesn't bother me. The fact of the matter is that we got to put our country on the right footing. Up till date, you are there victimizing people in the security apparatus, including police officers who would have done you nothing. And Sumana Kinte that you people transferred not long ago, what has he done? Executing his function to the best of his ability, but of course out of your envy and jealousy and of course dislike for truth and justice, you actually transferred the guy. Based on nothing. So and if you tell me that, oh yeah, the TRRC said, oh, Manga his matters need to be looked into, why then the TRRC invite Manga to hear his version? That is how you actually do justice? Or the woman said, oh yeah, you arrested them, or you detained them, or you incarcerated them, or go and take the charge sheet and look at it. Did you see the woman's baby put on the charge sheet? Did you see the woman's baby actually jailed? Does Banjul even have a prison for women? Or sitting behind a counter means you are arrested and then you are incarcerated? And how is Manga responsible for that? Did you even hear his version of it? No, because you were not going to give prominence to those Jola boys, because you know that everything that was said there were flip-flops. If you people push us, Baba Galle Jallo, the rest of the people who are working in the commissions, your screenshots and your conversations, we will put them out there. But you ragalun kendi. I tape dekuñu fi. Te nak ay ragal dekuñu fi de. We will tell you the truth as it is. You killed the police here not long ago. You cannot even justify why you had to do that. And all of a sudden it's like, oh no, you want to hijack our change. The change belongs to you. It belongs to your household. It was formed under your grandmother's bed. No. TRRC, the Jane Commission. Oh yeah, you keep talking about Batambedu. Who is Batambedu? You say people not going to talk about that? We will say it. You said Jammeh did all the wrongs, of course, yes. And recently when I listened to him, I was like, dude, I respect you as a former president to talk better than you were doing, honestly. Saying that 8 people use one needle, a former president shouldn't be talking like that. Telling us that Senegal has no oil and it's only Gambia that has oil and they're drilling Gambia's oil, that's not possible. If you tell me Gambia has oil, based on the fact that if you look at the position, geographic position of Sangomar, and then you look at it, the close proximity to Gambia, and of course, probably the fault beddings, it's very possible and very likely that Gambia has oil, just as Senegal. But to say Senegal does not have oil, it's just drilling Gambia's oil, that is a flip-flop. And of course, telling us that, you know what, Senegal annexing Gambia, I'm going to wipe out Senegal. No, bro. Gambia got to be better than that shit. But again, let's come to Issa Fall and his commission. People think that, oh, this is a very, you know, highly educated guy. You did your master's somewhere in how do we call it? You know, in West Indies. That is nothing, it's not that you studied rocket science. But of course, the politics you people injected in the TRRC and your ethnic sentiments are very visible now. Because constantly you're like, oh, Al-Mami did this, he did that. But of course, if the TRRC was constituted by the government of the Gambia, and then they send their report to the government of the Gambia without even hearing a single word from Manga, which is not fair in its way, some of us never care to talk about it. And we're like, you know what, dude, face it. If that is the case, if you did something like that, you know, you will be fine at the end of the day. You did not kill nobody. You probably detained somebody, and if you did or you did not do, you basically can justify it. But you never called him to ask him, why did you allow Masana Kinte to actually, you know, testify behind the camera? Why is, Mufala Kanye still working in government? Why are the rest of the folks who were leading the police force, were giving positions in power, including my uncle Sonko? Oh, well, Mankuge. Almami le moditin min na dingo, you know, Almami is your witch or your wizard. Oh, he's the very bad person. Oh, we got to incarcerate him. Or we got to disassociate with him. We cannot wish him a birthday simply because of what? Oh, oh yeah, if we do so, then he's one of us, and then those ethnic characterization, you think it bothers us? What do you know that we don't know? So Issa Fall and his folks are not different from what had happened in the Janneh Commission. Because you cannot tell us that for 22 years of Jammeh's rule, even a pen he did not own. That doesn't make any sense. You gave yourself powers that you never had, just like the commission did. Because if the commission of the TRRC was basically voluntary to speak, why did you put Yankuba in live imprisonment? Isn't it voluntary to speak? No, Balokante and other people who massacred Gambians are basically folks that you considered heroes, including some of the coupists you actually reinstate in the army, and so that they can actually develop forms, and in those forms let them write that, you know, oh no, you know, write your tribe there so you can know the number of people who are Jolas in the army, so you can downsize it or do whatever you wanted to do with it. And that is why Masana Kinte starts sacking Jolas in the army. The people of Fonyi can be quiet. I am not going to be quiet. I'm going to tell you what the facts are. It is the same commission that went to Fonyi and removed all of your community boreholes. They remove all the borehole pumps so that you can starve to death because they don't care about your well-being. And you just jump and you say, you know what, oh, we are going to support Barrow. Mane, yen lol and I support Barrow. Dafa amun gering because Barrow mo neka president since then. You cannot see the UDP as your problem and think that Barrow is a good person. No, it doesn't work like that. That mentality doesn't work. Barrow is a collective action problem. His regime is as bad as whatever they would have been alleging Jammeh of. So it's high time that Gambians understand the perspectives in that regard. Because if you put 16 cars in the airport and only 3 went into the cargo, where is the 13? They cannot tell us that. Masana Kinte, Issa Fall, that whatever lead, you know, Alaji Sedi Barrow, and all those folks, there is no way you can tell me that these are impartial people to investigate matters related to Jammeh. If somebody adversely mentioned Almami Manga that, oh yeah, he's the one that detained, but you know, all of those things were not on the basis of law. It was out of anger and animosity. Of course, nobody is going to support the fact that Jammeh was picking up these protesters and then putting them behind the bars. But if the Ministry of Justice said, we are going to prosecute these people, who is Manga to stop that? If the government of the Gambia, IGP, said, I'm taking this matter to court, who is Manga to stop that? Just like recently I heard from folks at, Kerfado saying that, oh, Almami is not a good person or whatsoever. Hey, if you want to call people, you don't sit on your platform and be castigating people out of nothing. Simply because your reporter had a case with the police, or probably went to State House and a State House disgusting or disgruntled cameraman tried to do harm to him, it was the government of the Gambia to take that to court through the police. If the IGP are single lakang amansong almami Now you went to the police, they told you, oh, the file is with Almami. Is it Almami who actually takes police files to court? But out of wickedness, out of utter hate for the young man, you people will be out saying all kind of trash about the young man. For what reason? You sit on your platform without even considering the fact that, it has, impacts on people's and their lives. But all you could do, oh yeah, he's a bad person because what? You had a case with the State House, cameraman that they refused to take to court because the government and the leadership of the police deliberately decided they will not take it to court. What can Almami do? Force them to take it to court? Because at the time he was at the prosecution? As if we don't even know how processes work. Now, if the same government that established the TRRC realized that, of course, the recommendation on manga was not really what happened, it's not reflective of the reality, they opened an investigation, the investigation was done, they recommended to the cabinet, and cabinet said, dude, go. You've done nothing wrong. Oh, cabinet is wrong. But that cabinet is still those folks that you people believe are the best of folks in our country who decided or presided over those matters. So if the cabinet was wrong, then you want to tell us that the TRRC that was constituted by that cabinet is right. And for me, I don't like. It's not the gabi. Then koy taxi yon. Albamam fudu modi jande. If you want to be, characterizing people on negative ethnicity, we will happily deal with it. We wish Almami happy birthday, and some of you had issues with that. You write your rubbish and we're like, you know what, let it slide. And then you pick on every other person who writes on it simply because what? This is basically who they are, this is where they belong. And then of course, simply because they are tribesmates to Jammeh and they are all Jammeh supporters. Who cares about Jammeh and whatever he would have been doing? Ngo, metonya la follow nga tonya tama na nyimbanko ka. Masana kintenyol ni moko tongol wale tapale ya ni batare ya mintiri nyimbanko la. You people will not say that, but you still give them positions. Kanye and other people who were killing Gambians in cold blood, you still leave them to be walking in the streets freely. You know why? Because they are not those folks from Fonyi. They are not those folks you were recommending for their sacking, for their removal, without actually following due process. Why didn't you call Manga to come and testify? Why you mean is a file di jema garau lo feka garau len dara ludul yifi tapale rek ngeen fa nekke won and you think you want to jump and be president. Sometimes I feel that some of these folks got to be given chance, but I don't think so because they don't deserve nothing. When they were giving the opportunity, they messed up big time. So what do you people have to tell people? When people got to tell you one, hey, let me tell you, I will support Jammeh now. Let's see what you can do about it. What can you do about it? Yo, kwale Mohammed mo face your own motto, the param, the flop, the purum. I don't even need to say that to nobody because either the coalition came into power or Jammeh is in power. Who do I owe that explanation to? Nobody. I don't owe anybody any explanation. Fingen tongene Omar Sadio koku domi Salif Sadio la simply because he bears a Jola surname, and of course Salif Sadio and Omar Sadio. You sacked him in the army for no fucking reason. And Muga talk fini, Fabagari Tombong and the rest of the people. You think, oh yeah, you know what? You people in Fonyi come and vote for Barrow. He's the one that likes you. Oh, and other people are bad. No. UDP is even better than, Barrow's government. And some of these little toddlers who would be insulting people here and there, those people, they have no impact in any political system. All they do is to act rough on social media. And then you see Gambians, very funny. People would start insulting you. They wouldn't tell them nothing. And then when you start fighting back at them, they're like, no, Fatego. That's not we. No, I don't operate like that. You tell me shit, I'm too young to say bye na la yala. Boy, you know the pie nyoko ewa. If one ninge fulang wala minsi ade de ko ego ni ala bulaje purmo. E badara kumo fanya mintambe wala mbola fole. Pie yo. What can you do actually? At the end of the day, nothing. You talk shit, and if it goes beyond your limit, I take you to court. Whatever is going to happen, let it happen there. It's as simple as that. We got to be honest to our people. But then this political divide or divide and rule they are doing, because they are shrinking the political space to be between NPP and the UDP, and they made it look like, oh, UDP is bad and everything good is NPP. It doesn't work like that. It is the same folks who were sharing these assets, the same folks who constituted that, TRRC, and they were doing all the disgusting things within it. So, every little time, oh yeah, Almami Manga, you did this. You will never talk about Sonko. You will never talk about Mofala Khan. You will never talk about the rest of the folks who were there, who did the terrible things. Why didn't you bring into perspective the December 30th? That was not part of the atrocities of Jammeh's regime. Why didn't you bring it in? You never wanted to talk about that because we know some of you were involved in it and some of you who were in the commission were basically the ones masterminding it. In as much as Jammeh is bad and everybody could agree in one way or another that he needed to go, but of course if you did something like a coup, own up to it. Don't shy away from it. Gis nga man wax len dega duma ko ragal te mënu len ci tous. Alman kuno wada de. Allah masakunda wala masakunda kodeng wala masakunda juma. People got to tell you the fact. And then folks be running away from, no, you know, it's a bit sensitive, it's tribal, we are going to speak it. Degarek moy taxawal rew. Why didn't you go to, you know, some of your communities to go and remove the borehole pumps that were there? Or you want to tell me Jammeh only put borehole pumps in Fonyi? That you can even go to women gardens, women pleading with you that we are actually watering our, crops with this. Why are you going to remove it? But you deliberately remove it to do what? To make sure their crops dry because you don't want them to have water. Simply because you think they are from Fonyi and they are people that are associated with Jammeh. They are his relatives. We got to actually inject poverty and hunger on them. And no lady. Alnara mola ni sol mural one ni sol mural ko wafu 3, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 akomoto for like and some of you will like, yeah, but you're talking about Batambi. If you insult Manga, we will insult you to the last drop of whatever. That is where we've got to with you now. Amatut kom na ne kom nini mane support al samboka ma support mamboka ñu hol fu ñuy mujjé yeen ñan that you can pick people out of nothing and castigate them, insult them, say all kind of things about them. Meanwhile, they have not even killed anybody. They have not done anything that you might think that this person definitely need to be completely dismissed from his job. When people sat and, kind of criminally connived to kill 2 police officers in the streets of the Gambia, and all of you are still silent in that country, including the entire police force, knowing fully well that their leadership is complicit in the killing of the cops, but they will not say anything. Because they are not your relative, they are not your blood brother, simply because the dude's got to be killed because he has a name, Pate Jallo. Because the UDP was complaining about Pate Jallo. But the person who was making excessive comments about Pate Jallo now is a bedfellow to the president. We got to be honest to ourselves and we got to tell the truth to folks. But we got to tell you the facts. The regime is as disgusting as the previous. And then until we collectively come together and put all these sentiments aside and thinking that, oh, this group of people are bad. No. Gambia needs a reset. And that reset, it requires all the opposition parties to come together to ensure that we put that country on the right footing. And they cannot continue to sell that propaganda that, oh yeah, UDP is the problem. For UDP, ya Adam Barrow, the Kabrin 2016. This man from the beginning has that mentality to betray and disappoint the folks. So when you had that agreement with the rest of the country to go about 3 years, when you wanted to betray, it's not because Dabo had said that, oh no, the constitution says 5 years. Before that, everybody knew that. Even if he had said that, but now he wants 15 years. And that is why they will do anything and everything to remain in power. People who criminally connive to steal and loot, looted assets from a previous regime again. So how are they better? We are hijacking your genuine struggle. Struggle against what? For, the struggle was actually formed under your grandmother's bed. This regime got to understand that they've messed up so bad that they cannot fix it. So the only thing is they got to go, and then we got to look for a government that will account issues that happened during the Jammeh regime, seriously, and of course issues that happened under the Barrow regime. And those people were only claiming their right to survival because they are women guardian. You wanted to give it to a single individual who is not even a member of government, but just a private citizen who was doing business, a private businessman against an entire community whose livelihoods depend on their guardian. But you wanted to give him to mine sand from the community where the community could actually get their livelihoods. You want to destroy that out of nothing. That is how this government operates. On top of that, the community refusing some of those things, what did you do? You went ahead killing members of the community. And you think going to apologize was enough? Jammeh had killed a lot of people, but did he apologize for that? He had apologized to other people, and you think apology solves it? Barrow, by the time you leave, we will incarcerate you. Jammeh might have escaped, but probably you will not. And the police, we also know that somebody was under police custody who actually died under your custody. Why didn't you come out and make a statement about that? You Alio maneuver trying to hide it. You cannot hide it because Gambia is too small that whatever happened, people know. On top of it, you framed the cops simply because UDP was complaining about Pate Jallo. You went and killed a Pate Jallo and then frame all your fabrications and come out to lie to the Gambian people. And now that is evidently clear to every Gambian that the regime is responsible for killing the cops. So after all of this, you still have people who will tell you, oh no, it's not the regime, it's UDP. Ndabuka wala understand no. Ika amana molmini yaron ko natara hasidia nin joya nin kudo mandrando. No, we cannot be blaming the UDP for everything that happened in the Gambia. UDP left government since 2019 or whatsoever, around that time. But up till date, what has been happening? Kabirika police all for UDP masakunda. If you look at the list of ministers who were sharing land in prime locations in Brufut, none of the UDP former ministers was there. Where Batambedu remove his name and put the name of his brother, you will not actually find UDP ministers there. I might have my issues with some members of the UDP, but the UDP is a formidable party that has stood its ground to defend this country in good and in bad times. They might be reactionary in some of the incidents here and there. They could actually handle better, but you cannot tell us that every blame is got to go to UDP because, oh no, NPP is better. No, NPP cannot be better. NPP strives on political card, deceit and deception. Because it all like a murone kabo ko ning UDP win the battle be by la bang. Iba jumal la by la bang koka. Who can jumal ba jumal ba wala nyumbang koka. But who even listen to those kind of comments? So until the opposition understand that, you know what, we got to collectively come together and stop all this infighting within, castigating each other. Our common denominator here is about the Gambia, and the whole thing is about the regime is not doing what it's got to do for the collective good of this country, and it's got to go. Wherever that reset would come from, we collectively need to look into that, and then at the end of the day, we got to see the Gambia first. Oh no, UDP is bad, UDP is bad. Who is good? The regime that is killing the cops is good? The regime that is sharing our lands in prime locations is good? People in the National Assembly sharing Gambia's land and driving in parados are good? People who actually come to show us selective justice and selective questioning of witnesses at the TRRC is good? Oh no, everything you got to blame it on a certain kind of people because that is what you believe in. Oh no, you see UDP, they are insulting you, bro. It's not, nobody has a tag on Facebook to say you belong to UDP, no. My mentality is my mentality, and the fact of the matter is that the collective action problem in the Gambia now is NPP and its talks. And I'm not saying everybody in that political whatever is bad, but what is happening in the Gambia that people need to independently assess the truth and tell the truth as it is. We cannot continue to point fingers at other people. I saw recently, two advisors of the president went to a community that I know very well, a typical Manyago community. And when I listen to the audios of their statements, are like, we are all here, the president is there to support you. That is the same community that the Sirif division and people within the judiciary will go there and paste notices in their compounds to tell them to vacate. But under this same regime. So if basically the advisor to that same president comes and tell you nobody is going to remove you here, we are all equal here, what are they insinuating? Who are the people who is telling anybody to live anywhere? Nobody. But this is the mentality, these are the framings, these are the lies and deceptions they continue to peddle. That there is a group of people that want to send you out of this country. Who want to send who out of this country? So those kind of statements do not make any sense because they do that simply to divide and make you understand that, oh no, it's a group of people that are against you. It doesn't work like that. Use your brain to think. Because if that is the case, why are you being asked to vacate your homes? And then they behave like chameleons. When they come to you, they pretend to be one of you. They act like they were schooled by people, within your ethnicity or your ethnic group, that you are the best out there. And at the end of the day, they will send other people to come and tell you to vacate your communities. And they will still come back and pretend that, no, it's not us. But who is in government? Gambians need to actually understand that life has gone beyond that. And we basically need to understand that this regime is not what is desirable for the country. because that mentality, they made you believe that other people are against you. They're going to send you out of this country. They're going to do that. They're going to do this. It is actually something masterminded and headed by them. And then when somebody jumps and tell you, oh yeah, the young people don't be used. Are you tools? Imagine somebody in his mid-20s or getting to 30s, you think the person did not know what is good and bad. He cannot distinguish right and wrong, that you got to tell him don't be used. That is simply because you see this person as a tool. Your new political system of going to some of these Manjago communities and trying to make them understand, oh, you know what, we are here for you, we are going to... You go to my community to give them a football jersey? Football jersey. And then the madam has a football jersey. But this is basically what the people need to understand, that political orientation goes beyond somebody coming and lying to you and giving you a football jersey and of course a football. Imagine people of my age, all that you care about is a football jersey and a football? Really? At this age and time? That nyanga poni tulontuko no bana ni jokumo no we ma unakapulo plog uchiba ulo plog green kukaja kuma no tultuba umundu tanya tu, but the same people kaponi bukuno bekejo kuma na natandi to ende because bukulu kabu kuntuko inga pore mpona nya kijiri tuko almost 60 years or more, and somebody would just jump one day and tell you that, oh, I own all this place. And you know what they do? Because these Manjago communities do not mostly go and lease their lands, or they don't actually get them registered here and there. They will go and actually connive with people at lands division to ensure that they register people's lands in their names and come back and say, oh, we have documentation for it. That is exactly how this regime has been feeding on the people since 2016. How can you remove or excuse Adam Barrow from that? How can you recuse the regime that is in power from that, and then you want to blame the opposition that is not in power? These are things that we basically got to be honest to ourselves for. So Gambia Fudara Temple to me, accountability should be on people who are voted in office, not the opposition. Your disagreements with opposition folks on the media, you know, of course, you would understand. Mostly I understand the UDP, not because people would think, oh yeah, you probably like them or whatever. I have no disliking for anybody though. I have most of my folks in the NPP. And if I want to get into government stuff, which I am absolutely not interested in, I would go and befriend folks in the NPP. They are most of my friends, some of them, you know, in key positions who would have been my students here and there. But the fact of the matter is that the regime got to be honest to the Gambians. You cannot just come and say, oh yeah, because they're bullying me on the media. Do you know how much trauma this political party had undergone? Of course, you might say that, of course, they are this and that. And sometimes we kind of mischaracterize them, or they are violent. But do you see the reason why? When the paramilitary were beating these folks not too long ago, you know, when they wanted to actually get Mahmoud Sabal elected, they are beating them like donkeys. Do you actually expect such people to just sit down and think everything is right? Because anytime you attack them, they see that as this is an attack on all of us, because they have been constantly attacked and brutalized for so long. You might not agree with their political policies here and there, but the things they had gone through, nobody in that country had gone through it. But of course, some of them who had gone through nothing, out of your negativity and evil-mindedness, you always want to attack other people who did you no wrong. Wait for people to do you wrong before you actually come after them. You know, one thing about me is I give you hours. You talk shit about me, I give you hours. Several hours to see, would this person realize that what they're saying really doesn't make sense? Or do they understand that that is probably wrong not to actually get into that part of the conversation? Or I engage you, you know, bro, why would you think it's right to just castigate, insult people simply for telling you stop doing this and that? And when I feel like, you know what, this is a person who feels that this is their attitude, they're bullies. Oh man, I live a life of a bully. When folks started reporting me to NIAs and all that, I was like ignoring. When I realized that, you know what, ignoring these folks can easily put you in trouble during that regime. And then, you know, you have to stand your grounds. And standing your ground is basically go out there, fight it to the end. Or who is there to tell people that you cannot wish this person a happy birthday because he's your tribesmate, or he had done, you know, some ugly things in a previous regime here and there, which you cannot even justify, simply because you put up a commission that was selective in everything they did. There is nothing I could give credit to for the TRRC, because you cannot take somebody who wanted to kill Jammeh as, you know, Jammeh's lead investigator. Right? Again, You cannot tell us that Issa Faal is the best person to do the job. Before you conclude the job, you wanted to be president. Baba Galla Jallow, before the job concludes, you actually have desires to become president. So these are the people that you cannot tell us that they are the most competent people to run offices who have no respect for principles and ethics. I equally know the police. When you killed two police officers and the surviving one was laying in a hospital bed, her classmates they would have trained with at the police training school, put money together to give her, you denied them access. Why? Can you tell us why you denied them access to Ansi Jao? And when she came to testify, she evidently told everybody that I don't know Usain Bojang. I have never seen him. Just like every other person, we had no confrontation with anybody where we were. Somebody was I just heard gunshot and all of a sudden I find myself in the hospital. I saw him just like every one of you on phones and on the media. Sufficient enough that this dude has nothing to do with the killing of the cops because the regime did it and they want to hide it. You want to go by Jammeh's playbook, but you cannot actually sustain it because everything Jammeh was doing was not secret. People know that this was actually things that the regime was doing. In as much as we don't have the voice to say it at the time, we knew it was the regime. But now we're going to tell you that this is exactly what you are doing. If we don't top the Kadaldinana, you know, oh yeah, we are supporting human rights or fundamental rights. When you people actually killed that dude in Kanilai because they were protesting against those foreign forces, how are you going to justify that? Already you've killed almost 6, 7 to 8 people. So as we get on, you want 15 years. Okay, get 15 years and more people will continue to die. And that is why killing people in the streets of the Gambia is nothing. And you know why you now want to bring a new case to that, you know, whatever, to restart that Kumbasiang's case or whatever. The Chief Justice, the entire judiciary of the Gambia is a total mess. It's a total mess. You think if you restart it, you're going to actually, you know, get, you know, probably, you know, get some evidence is already destroyed or probably some witnesses might not be around and then you can actually compromise the case the way you want it because these are folks from influential families. Are they better than any other Gambian? Frankama dingol wala fi siara do ba dingol mol men yalan ko som taka join kilina tara wala bulu dale te sorong o dol bi jal ko le sisel le sunyale ta wol sorong but miniam mol fa you want to play dirty. If the regime had the audacity to say Yankuba Ture is going to live imprisonment simply for not speaking to the TRRC, why is Kanye outside? Why is Edward outside? Is it really about killing Koro or is it about speaking at the TRRC? But was speaking at the TRRC mandatory or was it basically, you know, out of, you know, your own convenience if you want to? If you don't want to, you can say you don't want to. But Ale Muneke, Ale Yankuba invite Nigeria. You see, Allah tapale ya latole amral nyamental. Ale Yankuba invite Nigeria. Yankuba naraje while he was sitting in your either break room or in a waiting room. What did you people do? You wanted him to testify. He evidently or clearly told you, I don't want to testify. I have whatever immunity here and there. And you know that there is nothing you can do. But you have to actually irritate Gambians because Gambians, including myself, was so irritated that Jammeh's regime did all those terrible things. You know, Musola, Mol Kangola, you know, Kolfa, you know, Tapalian in Tilimbaliaka. But of course, what did they do? When they did that, you know, to actually put the cameras on Yankuba Ture for saying, I am not going to testify, that is to engineer an anger among the population. And you see that when the people rise against Yankuba, what would they do? They will arrest him and put him in live imprisonment. That was a pre-planned assignment. Just like the killing of the cops was a pre-planned assignment. So Masane Kinte and his crew, you know, all those folks that they were, you know, dismissing in the army. This dude took you people to court. You cannot prove that he's Salif Sajo's son. You were asked to reinstate him in the army. You deliberately refused to reinstate him in the army. Someday, another commission will be established and you'll be asked why you refused to reinstate this boy into the army. Simply because he's a Jola, or he has a Jola surname, or he's the son of Salif Sajo. But of course, coupists who actually confessed coupists will come and tell you, oh yeah, you know, they are heroes. Heroes of what? But it's been 7, 8 years of Barrow's regime, no single coup, simply because Jammeh was a Jola, you wanted to kick him out of presidency. And of course, Barrow did not kill people. Barrow is not mismanaging our resources. Within 5 years, you had over 200 million. 200 million. Within 2 years, you built mansions in Mankamankunda and you took some of Jammeh's properties are in your name. Oh, Womange Masakunda Kurumot. Mansakunda Miyalonko is making, you know, people of the country to pay $20 or probably more at the airport to enter their country and to leave their country. What is more disgusting than that? Where is the Gambian Dalasi? If we say that Jammeh had to go because of his human rights records or he was abusing his powers here and there, tell me about this regime that killed the cops and framed other people and they are still languishing in jail for no good reason. Tell me about dismissing people based on their ethnicities. What do you actually refer to that? Tell us dismissing people because of their political ideologies. What do you refer to that? Tell us about our constitutional building process that they scattered. What do you make up of that? Tell us TRRC that was so selective and of course nothing has come out of it up till date. What do you make up of that? Tell us about developing forms in the military setup and asking people to write their ethnicities in those forms. What do you make up of that? Tell us about killing people in Faraba Bantam for defending the rights of their communities. What do you make up of that? Tell us about giving heavy fuel contracts to your associates and funders of the NPP. What do you make up of that? Tell us about giving lining months, how do you call it actually? Mining license to people who are funders of the regime to destroy our ecosystems along the combos. What do you make up of that? Tell us about seizing lands from Jammeh and of course sharing it among your ministers, and what do you make up of that? Tell us about being elected into the National Assembly to turn around and then share lands belonging to the state. What do you make up of that? And of course, taking state money and actually buying yourself parados and then jumping like, you are the best out there when you know nothing. Some of you were taxi drivers yesterday. And I can do the UDP and the rest of the political parties in opposition got to come together and put aside all of these differences and understand that the common problem in here is the regime and the way it is going about running our country. If we really care about our country, if we really care about the well-being of the Gambia, that our country, then we got to put aside all those differences. But some of you who would come and say, no, you have to listen to Jammeh differently. How will I listen to Jammeh differently? Alma maneka kamoende, alma njola kamoende, alma manja kamoende, alma karonga kamoende, alma surua kamoende, alma angale kamoende. Saiba folante nyadila. Let me go and listen to him differently. The man said that a needle is used on 8 people. And it knows so me man, and man can know so from you need to understand that man can tonyat. That is not possible. Again, you cannot tell us that Gambia has oil and Senegal does not have oil. But if you look at the geological characteristics of Senegal and the Gambia, you understand that the possibilities are that there could be oil in Senegal and of course it could flow through the Gambia. But that was a company that was contracted in the Gambia was the same company contracted in Senegal. There could be double standards and foul play, and these are things that were reported years and years ago, and of course including reports that emanated in 2024. But because we don't read, we don't look at affairs of our country, we are just busy on this petty partisan politics instead of looking at the well-being of our country. We think Jammeh speaking was the time that it actually paid, put your attention to it. But these are things that have been persistent, that something would have gone wrong. How can you dig wells in our country and tell us that we cannot open those wells? For Fala Tam Gambian, what kind of agreements are those? But of course, some of these deals would have been signed at the State House, and of course, they would have agreed on exploiting the Gambian people, just like they're giving all this licensing. Imagine somebody gave 6 vehicles to NPP before they actually gave him, heavy fuel, contract. Your associates are the one giving all these big contracts so that those monies can be injected back into your party. That is why you are building big party mansions. By the time your regime collapses, the good thing is that some of these edifices or infrastructures will never go anywhere. They will all be seized, and then you can go and sit in Mankamankunda. Probably we can turn Mankamankunda into a military base. Because you cannot go to Kanilai, which is basically home to Yaya Jammeh, and turn it into a military barracks. When you leave power, we'll go to Mankamankunda and turn it into a military barracks. And then that is a fair deal. Everything you own before and during presidency, by the time you leave, everything will be seized, because that is what you told us about Jammeh. And then we will see how equity would definitely play out in that sense. Yo manulo nga jël ñom batameri ñu gom ne yo manulo, and then all of a sudden they played you out, and of course they gave you some of the lands. Now you are telling us, oh, report all dol man nante ya ite president do reka fondole ko report all dol man nete ya. What are you responsible for? Yo yange chucha kongrek, you don't even understand how the country is actually driving at. You are basically driving a vehicle that you don't even know the destination. Ana adunda dingo kono fo ita buka kalamda ita okay ka asiler lo ngaita drong chucha kuma drong idea. Hey, alanga tonya fo. Menna bankota man la tonya laka. Masare do londe. But it's high time that people of my community come out and kind of so they are disgusted, disgust towards this government. Because one thing about folks and communities is that You look at Usainu Bojang. Funding came here, you know, some of us know and grow, went to school with, you know, in the neighborhood, everybody knows him. Mota fola janko, you know, ma Usainu long. Mota fola no janko, mota brufud le no, this boy, you know, I'm rebelolti. Mota fola no janko, nyimbo nene do ko kebrikama area council. Nobody can even say that this dude actually you know, he's a problematic person in the community. No go he has no buddies. I'm more times, so you know, the only times you will see this dude is, you know, when you have one thing or another to do with him. Abala side abala kukanya because he had a problem with somebody, the regime framed him, and my entire community is silent about it. Alcohol mtonyat. That somebody can just come and pick one of us and then do all this dirty for 2 fucking years and everybody thinks it's okay and we are all going to be quiet and silent. It doesn't work like that. When your people are in trouble, that's the moment you got to stand for them and stand for the truth. But most of you will not say anything. Excuse the language, but what I'm doing, no, we know I'm doing no quite a man. Lungamin Albena for a new water sida. I'll say a day, Kali a day, Yami sign thing. Happens in this country. Stop distracting my life, bros. If I'm talking about people that are associated with you, I don't really care. Let me just finish up. You know? That's the point. And when you listen to it, I listened to one time, I read one article written by somebody, Fall or whatever, who claims to be Sadauda's grandson or whatever, that Yaya Jamimam Fenso no Naman Samata killing Kamambering. You people considered Jolas that way because for you, the only thing that Jolas were good at is to be watchmen and bindans. That is basically something we got to tell you. Yeah, Jammeh changed a lot of things in the Gambia. He had done a lot of bad, he killed people. Nobody can dispute that. But Jammeh brought about equity in the Gambia. Prior to that, it's only the sons and daughters of chiefs and other people that were going to school in the Gambia. We know back then in Brufut, it was just a primary school. If you had to go to junior secondary school, you got to go to Sukuta or you go elsewhere. You're going to stay in their houses. You just drop out. Or probably use the harbor's boss at the time to commute to school. Nimo will be school, but Jammeh build schools all over the Gambia. You cannot say that this person is all bad or is all good. Of course, there are good and bad sides of it. He actually built a university, and through that university, some of us got an education that you want to question today, and you can never question that. You know why? We did it to the best of our ability, from distinction grade, from primary school all the way to a PhD, the highest level you can ever get to. Go get there before you ask me about how we got there. If you brag about university today, if you brag about the new buildings you are putting in there, let me tell you, most of these new buildings are part of the Faraba Bantam project, which is basically an ADB project. Is it IDB or something? Because I was one of those IDB scholars. I was part of those who benefited from the Faraba Bantam project to go study a master's degree, where we were paid thousands of dollars to basically, just study. Just to study, just to pay you. Let me tell you one thing. Our scholarships were way, way more than our salaries as staffs of the university. And that was a Yaya Jammeh project that educated most of you, including people who will mouth him any here and there. Of course, when it comes to human rights records, people got to tell Jammeh you did this bad. But you cannot tell us that Jammeh owned nothing all the way to this day. You brag about going to university. That university was built and established by the same Jammeh. When PPP government did not want university education for Gambians because they thought creating universities in the Gambia will make Gambians way aware and then they will actually start countering the regime. Jammeh never cared about people countering the regime because he knew Gambians need that education, they need that exposure. And of course, he created scholarships to most of you, including people who will mad him today, including one person that I saw who alleged me of organizing a protest at the University of the Gambia when he was looking for scholarship at the office of the president. Now, you want to use me as your bait to get a scholarship to move to the United States. You came to the United States, you turn around and be, castigating Jammeh, whom you were dancing for and working on his farms. At least I stood my ground and said, dude, I'm not going to Faraba to work for Yaya Jammeh on his farms. And I and you had a confrontation about that. Like, boy, I'm going to Yaya Jammeh. Man do ko kembani fire ngara Yaya Jammeh la faro dongo ngara do ko la fanda nyamata.
O bafudu bali atol yo beke Gambia le dong ya jame altara state house ka uliala antol dol can just to get a scholarship. You came to the United States, you start jumping. Oh, Jammeh is bad, but you were dancing Bugarabu for him at the airport and other places. Singing him. Alumbe tonyala folanga na banko tamani tonyaka. Oh, all he did was all bad. He was a terrible, disgusting dictator here and there. That's very true. All that is happening in our country, we don't see it today. That people can sell vehicles for $5,000. That they could bring their girlfriends and give them millions of taxpayers' money. Or monies that were actually looted assets. And they turn around and use the same government to get appointments internationally. I'll go more over. Oh yeah, you know, you don't say anything bad about Jammeh. Why do I need to say bad about Jammeh? About what? What do you want me to say? Or to come here and say, oh yeah, Jammeh, you are very bad. A man who lost elections and left on, of course, if the government is serious and, you know, got to put Jammeh on checks and balances, why didn't they do it? But it's the same regime that went to Kanilai trying to form alliances and, of course, trying to make Jammeh their friend. After telling us that Jammeh did all these bad things, and what did you do? You are bedfellows with Jammeh's political party, or people who probably left his political party or actually hijacked his political party. And all on Nukugawa. You don't want people to talk about it. We will talk about it because the sensitive matters that you keep out are things that definitely need to come into these conversations. When it was all glory, it was all sunny, you told us that only one Jola was competent to work in government. What nonsense is that? You want to tell people that they're not going to say nothing about that, and then continuously you keep attacking folks and you think you are better off than them. Hey, you know, we either tell the truth or we part our ways. We cannot be pretending to each other when we know, you know, things are not all right. We cannot be pretending and acting everything is smooth. It's not smooth. We got to be honest to each other. We got to be honest to each other. That a whole commission can be set up, and then after investigating a man for 22 years, you told us that even what he owned before that 22 years is not his. He all got it fraudulently. How is that even possible? How is that possible? Will it be fair for me to say that the houses that Barrow owned prior to coming to power actually belongs to other people? But the mentality of folks, and then if you tell me, oh yeah, Bena Nyambai Kamambela Amon Bala Muineka president, but that speaks to the fact of how you actually terming certain kind of people and certain class of people. Because of your, you know, that ethnic prejudice and disgusting attitude towards a certain class of people continue to persist in your hearts. And you cannot actually hide it. And people continuously shutting up on it. It's not the solution. We got to talk about it. We got to open up to tell you what exactly it is. When Jammeh does wrong, I don't care what Jammeh thinks. I deal with people who are basically my own brothers. I don't care. But the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, you know that I harbor no grudge against anybody. If I can't help you, I cannot be the one to tarnish you. Why we got to support each other and tell the facts to each other. If we don't want to tell the truth to each other, we will only be deceiving each other without telling what the realities are. And if you tell me that, oh yeah, Jammeh was only appointing, you know, Jolas in key position. One Friday you sack all of them. But who did you replace them with? Are those people better than others? No. What Jammeh was doing was wrong, but what you did is right, right? That is how you want to run our country, and then you will turn around and tell us, oh, UDP is the problem, or they would send you out, they will tell you to go out of this country. What rubbish is that? Those are the political parties we need to hold accountable. And you know what they did successfully? Because most of these little politicians don't believe in anything. So what I think the NPP strength is like including all of these little parties and giving them position, and all of them will join government and be silent because they are not, you know, as resolute and of course as resilient as the United Democratic Party. Because UDP is a kumobesifa for him, but this is a party that believes in its principle, believes in its ideologies, and they stand by it through the thick and thin. And he bela mul banna falale lata mini lata walla. Para mo kodongol mini along ko malla hani fengo fenala. Well, you know, they are just flip flops. They are just aikakatar, you know, green erek nyom ñu green bu na neta munku day neta munku. So what long multi-million they are running our country and they want to tell us that, oh no, you know, these other people are bad, these other people are good, and you look at some sellouts who oh Dema young don't jai credit after sell, you want to tell me that how I get my education. Nigga, I don't brag about education because it's nothing of importance to me. And when you're them school, gis nga kayit lañ dee dugal suñ poos ñu dem toog si ghetto bi jógee foofu noonu daw duga brika ma duga class benn 2 hours nga loos nga dem sa yoon. We don't care about it. We did so because probably your parents want you to go to school. That's just it. And then because Gambia had that mentality that, you know, a kid, all that you got to do is go to school. Go to school for what? Most of the things we know, to go to school is basically to qualify that, of course, you can independently conduct research. It has nothing to do with my personality and how I react to you. You talk to me roughly, I bring it back to you. We are from the hood. We don't care about what you think. We grow up from the hood, and the hood actually give us the attitude we got, not really from a classroom. A classroom does not teach me behavior. I don't go to school to be taught behavioral science. No. You get it? Yo, bena 5 credits, I'm logo and put them UTG. Yo, you want to tell Malmo, do gonna figure never. And okay, we went to science 1 classes and we got the maximum credits required to go to university to study any fucking thing. We decided on what we want and we went on to do it, and we did it to the best of our ability. And we don't care what you people think. Yo, God, param paramaleta. Comme si lola jayete fango je banku do kay manke buke dina na manke fenna fenti te ko fale father France ita ko you want to come and be castigating manga and other people telling them what their jobs are, folks who are better than you ka hani wol yesumna dame fon ita lo no la wore ita ko ko wala castigate. And then you want to tell us that you hijacked our genuine, you know, whatever, genuine whatever, what was it called? Genuine struggle. If your struggle was that genuine, what did you do? Because Gambia, you were nowhere seen around the coalition. It's not even about what somebody did or what somebody did not do. The removal of Jammeh was a perfection of a combination of factors, like I said earlier. There were multiple things at play that actually had to get that guy lose election. And it was very necessary for the Gambians, because at one point, Jammeh was just like a chick. No, an eagle just above chicks, and then he could pick anybody. And then everybody was scared for that. But also, I can also understand that if you're president for almost 22 years, year in, year out, there are coup attempts on your life, then you become so paranoid that you think everybody's after you. Because that is basically what we have shown to the guy. Oh, 8 years, why didn't you go do coups? Because the president is your tribesmate? What nonsense is that? And you know, these people are bad, these other people are good. It doesn't work like that. Why did the TRRC feel that Masane Kinte needed to testify, and of course in camera and as well, you know, with a doctored voice? And again, Masane Yana ko wana demal si army bi, downsize the dollars from it, and then he went to the military clinic and ensured that everybody who comes to the clinic writes what their ethnicity were. What is the essence of writing people's ethnicity in the army? In the first place, those were the negative ethnicities and negative ethnic characterization that brought about that coup. Because the regime before then was actually operating in that fashion. People will say it, and then it's important that we say it. You get the point? How are you referring to what? Dude, look, if you're not interested in what I'm saying, get out of my life. I don't care about what you think. Man, I'm not interested in folks who basically come here to talk shit. Get out of it and go your way. You don't come here and constantly be after people and then fighting them as if they've done you so bad. But people who are doing wrongs every day, you don't care about those people. No. Wax to be more jot pour ñu waxante deka bi dañ koy tek ci yoon wala nak you know luy xew mu xew. But your continuous negative ethnic characterization, and of course your that superiority complex and acting better than other people got to fucking stop. Because you're not better than anybody. You will not jump and start insulting people who are associated with you, but you will just be picking other people, insulting them, castigating them, saying all kind of rubbish to them. What is that? But it's the same people that went to Fonya and removed all those boreholes from those communities. What exactly is that? Oh, if you want to tell me that, oh yeah, Jammeh was bad, but you cannot tell me that, yeah, Jammeh went to your community and removed your boreholes to starve your people. Of course, we know it was so wrong to tell other communities, if you don't vote for me, we are not going to bring in development. That was very wrong. But what exactly are the developments that this government came with? Because all these infrastructural, developments in relation to the university were Yaya Jammeh's project, because we know the IDB project was basically what is developing Faraba Bantan projects and the lots. Including, we basically know that the OIC was a Yaya Jammeh project. And then how he got that simply was, oh yeah, let me make Gambia an Islamic republic to politically maneuver to actually get the attention of the Arabs so that we can basically get infrastructural development and probably host the OIC. And that's exactly what happened. So you cannot brag about those projects because basically they are not yours. They are not from your wisdom. They are not from your thinking. They are not from your ability to actually bring about development in the Gambia. No. Itaba kuriari ko meseso alko molto fala hey deka bi aga nañ fo xamantene fokk ñu waxante dega ken ragalu fi ken de yeah. And if somebody tells you one thing, you characterize them as Jammeh's allies because they are Jolas, yes, I am, and I don't care about that. I don't really care about that. If you had the guts to sack, Omar Sajo from the army simply because you think he's Jammeh's ally or he's basically son of Salif Sajo, and you still, after losing the court case, you are asked to reinstate him, you deliberately refuse to reinstate him, what are you telling Gambians? If you want, seek an exclusive whatever government or seek an all-inclusive whatever government, the fact of the matter is that the regime is as disgusting as the previous, or probably worse. When we put aside, all the, human rights records, Jammeh, I don't think anybody would ever beat him on all the, malicious things he would have done to Gambian. But come to the economy, come to basically how, affordability of food and related items are in the Gambia at this point in time. But whenever elections come, they try to make you believe that, no, how can the opposition be the bad people who are not even in government? But because those people said, oh yeah, police all can more booty police all far. So ladies and gentlemen, we would not stay too long on this, but the fact of the matter is that TRRC, just like, the Jane Commission, was not any better. TRRC was that commission that was selectively picking witnesses, that was actually not giving other people the chance to come and prove their cases, just like they did and victimized Almami Manga. And some of those people who were writing the reports of the TRRC, including that lawyer Fati or whatever, somebody I might not long, but I'll be a dabeje. And you cannot tell me that, this guy who wanted to kill Yaya Jammeh, in a coup d'etat is the one who is going to be the lead investigator. Now he's so disgusted about the regime. Of course, you cannot be disgusted about the regime that actually gave you one of the biggest assignments in the Gambia. Janiba Banadorong, you picked a wife there and you ran away and you left the job there. Do those people actually have principle? Do they have ethics? Do they have professionalism? But because they are your men and they are your people, you will still defend and support them after all the disgusting acts they would have done. That investigator when you are even the wrong person to do it, but yet you started doing it before you completed. You picked a wife from that same commission. But alman hormone bunya so almal fang horom almal fang bunya alman principle sort of, you don't even have any iota of integrity in you, because for you people it's always about your trouser. Just like Batambedu's brother. Imagine you told us NIA 9, those people like Yankuba Baji and Co were actually doing all the bad things. You are picked by the state to prosecute these people when the state had the ability to prosecute the case, but they give it to you just so that they can pay you thousands and thousands of taxpayers' money. What did you do? The man's wife came to your office, just like one of your commissioners, Isa Fati, came to the commission of inquiry. Before you realize, you start texting her messages on private issues. This mafia regime and mafias all over, and you want to tell people that they're not going to say nothing about that? Oh yeah, Jammeh is a rapist here and there. I don't know. Some of your ministers, if some of us tell you what exactly transpired between us, your minister, your hamandanengo. Because you got to save some parties and some people you have very good relations with, and you don't need to actually put them in public light. Why tapale open some of your ministers, including some people running key offices in that government? So it's high time you cut the crap, because continuously hitting on people for no reason, we got to hit back at you. You know? Yeah. Abu John Barabosa. Bawi manyambi kaja bapene bukata bunganta manjaku kaja bukul. No, simpi, guru firar in the pung, you know, banya UDP, bangala tind, you know, bangala pugawi in the ringantab. But simple muntipijo buka jeji ikata kata bukar nakan dingantab kaja banya buka pendingantab bukul. Tabu me chida sinulumpulo, the pun banya kata bukar papa bring up getting in tabu, Langan tabu, Banolari Melegi, which him tell Kangal, or like a deal, Kawapam Bos, and Ring upon a Jakama, as Sinukambos, or Atiamokambos, and Komrang Joy. But the same people will come back to you and tell you, oh no, you know, this regime here and there is the same regime that will send that Sirif division to come and actually destroy people's houses. Or come and put, you know, those eviction notices everywhere. And then they will use some of the other politicians to come and make it look like, no, it's not them. But who? Who is in power? So kajira manjako nengenta manjako kampu meneo kirpi, and they cannot continue to use people in that light and try to poison your minds that no, it's other people who are against you. No, the regime is as bad as anything. Orochi come, you know, menta manjako nganchingi serious, boy manjako ininyaji police, asinulu kejo la tipanule mbuge fingul bufinka gusko, banyanga yinganaro ngupiulo ngochu. Oh no, manjako bulari mugaja puni nyampani ni finger bukunya and kaja koko to come to mugaja no pasimpi matampu amatampu na lapana buga finginya gababling ndula mene pasimpi penga gusko. Come down Jew. And then oh yo, you know this government is better. Better than who? Better than the opposition in what way? Because they already made you believe that oh the opposition is going to take your lands, they're going to send you out of this country. Lolo dafa muna neka. Lolo munta neka. Oi ai wahi kasaula. Is this same regime that people who were born and raised in Brookford, the Ghanaian community, they are denying them, national identity card, denying them passport, denying them government jobs. When it's time for election, they go and give them voters cards to vote for the regime. What is more disgusting than that? Are you more Gambian than those people whose parents were here since in the 50s and in the 60s in our communities, whom some of us went to school with and grew up with, or probably born in the same community with? But all that you people do is to divide and rule, to discriminate people out of nothing simply because they don't look like you, you think they are non-Gambian. Who determines what a Gambian looks like? Who determines what the facial expression of a Gambian should look like? And then you would see here other people say, oh no, you are a foreigner or you're not. Some of us are foreigners because, look, who cares about being Gambian or non-Gambian? Nobody should care about that. You are in this world to actually live a life. At the end of the day, you die and you get buried and people go their way and life continues. That is just it. So this regime cannot actually take things and then make it look like Adunta Jabodajan. You know? When the laws were in there, you know that some of these laws did not favor you. What did you do? You removed them to qualify certain people to certain positions. But the key laws that you could have actually developed to say, you know what, 2-term limit here and there, because Adam Barola Mansakunda and Malafiwala, after Monate to Siri Gedro, Kamola Bankola Nafu, Batarina, Alco Motofa. All them called them in Alonco, they got to end. You don't come to people's communities, you deny them nationality when you know basically that, those people, you are not more Gambian than them. As a Kewal Gambia time, minute Bani far from Mana Gambia. You cannot be Gambian, you are not this and that, you are not here, and whatever nonsense that is. Those are the things that got to stop. And then deceiving communities and going to them, making it look like, oh, the opposition is bad, the regime is good, we are going to support you. And you see the kind of people who are flip-flopping in those communities talking nonsense. It will not happen. And I'm very, very glad that, when I first got that news and I was like, coming to these communities to do what? You people don't even go to their meetings. These people are ethnicists and they will come here and inject some kind of nonsense mentality in your head to think that, oh no, it's other people who are against you. But what are they? Are they different from those people? Imagine the same person coming to you telling you, oh, this next person is bad, is the one that wants to send you out of this country when that person had no right whatsoever to send you out of anywhere. But that is just the political psyche of people who think that, no, you do not know, and they can deceive you and make you do things that are not appropriate. But at the end of the day, ajam tepaka kawelo sa kumani gweler plus patpini ata chintua. Banyang kaweler principle ole. Onor ngan chingin nganta ba nam kong kanam dulete patulo. So chung ko me nda kapa janda te wala check ne PCMP chita PCMP me pe no ko ka tankanya to unta boy because at the end of the day bukata bugar fing ba nya bugar fing ba buken ma buka ka ke je no na bala adam bala ring bala na nya ka fingo ka ba bling ka go unta ba bling ka pa wipe out till unta bling let me go ka pa. Those are the things we got to talk about. And one thing about it is that I don't even need to say I don't hold stuff against people. You talk shit to me, I'll talk back shit to you. It's as simple as that. You know? You talk shit to me, I talk shit to you. It's as simple as that. But the fact of the matter is that, why didn't the TRRC invite Almami Manga to come and say, you know what, they said you detain a particular person with a lactating baby, or you actually put them in prison. What is your version of it? But deliberately, they omitted him. They said, we don't need you here because we are not going to give prominence to these whatever boys. And then at the end of the day, you went and recommended for whatever nonsense against him without hearing his side of the story. When the government realizes all the flaws that happened in the commission, they, instituted, an inquiry into it. They investigated the matter. And of course, cabinet that instituted that commission of inquiry went, commission of, Truth and whatsoever Reconciliation Commission really came out to say, you know what, from the Justice Ministry to the Cabinet to say, you know what, honestly, we did not think you did anything wrong in this particular matter. But yet some of you would come out and say, oh yeah, you were indicted, you were doing this, and we cannot wish them happy birthday simply because you people think, you're superior. Or when we do so because they are tribesmates, yes, they are. Will you change that? Never. Can you change it? Never. Does it mean that we have animosity against any other people? No. So what's the point? We only got to respect each other. If we think somebody did wrong, you have every right to say you did wrong. But you cannot question who I associate with, how I associate with them, or how I actually talk about them. No, that's not your right. Rights comes with responsibilities, and they have limits, and they have stop points. So put a break where you got to stop. So our society got to look at. We got to adjust up and then be real to our people. But we cannot continue to be deceiving each other and thinking that, oh, those are just political maneuvers and political manipulations. It cannot happen. We got to adjust to the reality. Kabuk. Apa jawab pani unta buka pani gor fal banyan lu jawab ko no ro ngoro ndaja ki kuri unda pulo ko ni jasi ya ki jaba nya ko ko mtana na ta ba ngapa firando e chuan anya gor ta ga bare ngala ngapa ba ka de chi pani wa pa banyan unta ba ka ba bling tu ngala to ko ka jara ka de chi ka nya pani gor lente piyok ba lente piyok ka lilu ko rem ka pani ka no PCMP is going to do this, is going to do that. It doesn't make any fucking sense. That's the point. So the conversations we continue to avoid, we will actually restore them, and we will have those conversations, and they will not end. And nobody cares about playing victim or playing what. Play victim to who? What can somebody do to anybody? Nothing. Really nothing. So nobody is going to actually act like, oh, they're playing victim, they're doing this. Nobody is the victim to anybody here, because you cannot do nothing to anybody. You cannot. Since this government came into power, what did you actually do about the oil issues here and there? Did you go about investigating and understanding the petroleum industry of the Gambia and the potentials of having oil? Probably not. Because first you cannot open the whatever thing, that is it. But of course you will give all this license to your associates, the funders of your political party. Heavy fuel contract is giving to NPP funders. Mining license are giving to NPP funders, who are destroying our local communities at a rate that is quite unimaginable. Folks will go and develop land documents for in communities that they do not own, and they criminally connive with Sirif division and people at lands to take lands from people in the government. Parliamentarians share lands among themselves. Government ministers share lands among themselves. And then you leave the ordinary Gambian out there, and you still go to them and tell them the people in opposition are the bad ones, but you people who are sharing everything, and of course amongst yourself and living that flamboyant life, are the good ones. Na duda meto nyala fola ni manda to nya fola momo meno yoke. So mfodara wala tembodo. And at the end of the day, people would jump. When people start insulting people, you don't tell them, nigga, stop. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, fatal key. So what to jot na po hamantene, you attack, let me, not just even me, you attack my close associates, we will attack you. Alman no saferla. alman dunia longinte alman kuke Gambia molma minke alman al bulu nyama nyamoti. Respect people or you let them be. If you cannot let them be, you come with your propaganda, we will actually deal with it decisively. It's as simple as that. Dara du gene lolu de. And then whatever you people had done was all not true. It's all based on malicious intent and just propaganda. Of course, Jammeh did a lot of evil and that needed to come to light. But how are you doing it? Oh yeah, Babukar Jata, the army commander, could come and testify and sit there and talk. But Masane Kinte need to do it with a doctored voice and of course behind camera. What nonsense is that? That is equity? That is equality? Oh, that is justice for you. And Esafal would jump and say, you know what, you have international experience here and there. You were put in those positions because a close friend of you was there. It's as simple as that. Not because you were exceptional in anything. That's not the case. There is only one lawyer I respect in the Gambia with so much admiration, Mama Fatima Singate. Aside that, any other person, go and deal with your shit. And of course, the younger ones, some of them I went to university with, who would not want to be involved in issues that some of us talk about. But great personalities, great lawyers, they will never actually give them positions of, DPP, Director of Public Prosecution. They will always give it to foreigners so that these foreigners can do what they want. So that what the regime wants is what is going to be done. But on the case of Usainu Bojang, Tonyala Betamalaja. You, the judge who has been involved in a lot of scandals, including selling of Jammeh's assets and unfreezing them, we don't care about you. Yon follow ladi. Ida ni ya Jammeh problem also the jang, ibor retara angal tia. Ida murundana, ida go to unfreeze Jammeh's asset. Another judge ni along Jammeh was sorono. She stood her ground and said, you know what, the law is the law. But it is you that Batambedu will always run to because you can do all the dirty games for him. Batambedu brought Yankuba Ture to you and then you put him in live imprisonment on the basis of what you said he killed Koro. But why did you say that? Simply because Yankuba refused to testify at the TRRC. But testifying at the TRRC was voluntarily. People volunteer to testify. So if he did not want to volunteer to testify, why did you need to put your cameras on him and then send him to live imprisonment? Oh yeah, you want to set an example, and of course, Jete was the person to set that example for you. You turn around and then went to actually the same Jete, fraudulently, so that you can actually get a court order to unfreeze Jammeh's assets and go about selling them prior to even investigating and establishing the truth. When people telling you the truth about how systems should work, you said, oh yeah, they are Jammeh's allies. Who cares about Jammeh? Did he feed me? Did he feed my family? Did he give me any extra privilege or whatever? Jammeh became president when I was just 1 year old. Probably I don't even know how his regime was. Probably when you get to 16, you start understanding the dynamics of politics. Why watch years later and he actually lost the election. So what exactly did you want me to say? At year 1, I needed to come and start saying, oh, Jammeh, get out of this country. No. But even people who pick guns to kill the man is the same people that you actually pick to investigate him. Lolo bandiga moy dox ci façon diga yoy non. Da buga sila mola de. When I tell you what my truth is, that is just it. And if I believe in your version, I take it. And nobody is infallible. And of course, when I think my version is wrong, I just could say, oh, you know what, I take yours. That is just it. I do not know la moy dohi. Si diga, tonya do naka bango taman. So this is the truth that we got to tell each other. The regime is not in any way better than any other. And then continuously perpetuating those kind of, negative, mentalities on other people and trying to frame them on things that you have no idea about. It's just complete garbage. I've seen people that some of us defended, when they were actually arrested here and there. But that is human life. And even if such things happen to them today, we will still say that, this is wrong. Because what is wrong is wrong. Jammeh came out and spoke all trash, and I was like, everything this dude said is trash. And I know Nakuroke Dolong, he's a big Jammeh supporter. Whenever I say one thing or another against Jammeh, he just calls me. But Koroke I don't know kung follow mo tonyati. Yalong ila call siya la barang afuela kakanda mo, but mo makeku, wala mo tonyati. And at the end of the day, when former presidents speak, they got to speak with a lot of sense and wisdom, not really the way he does. But again, at the end of the day, you look at it, Baroka Malmo Fongo, some of those assets here and there were out. And then you would see people jump and tell you, oh yeah, why is this person against Batambedu and not Ami Bensouda? Ami Bensouda was not endorsed for any position by the UDP. The UDP's endorsement was on Batambedu for ICJ. And after knowing everything that we know now that Batambedu did in that commission, honestly, the honorable thing is for the UDP to withdraw its endorsement on Batambedu. Batambedu manke mukendeti. That is simple. So if Melville asks for that, you come there and start castigating him, and we are like, dude, maybe you did not understand. And then the next minute, oh yeah, it's Almami Manga. The next minute is sitting now, whatever. And the next minute is Malmo. You better know what Landogi. And then about it. You know, you are what is education? Education, in the first principles of it, you should be able to defend yourself and defend your community and people within it. So we say no bojan tol min in tara primary school atol yo solon tilimbalian in tajin de akal kon tol ngandeo kan. That is betrayal to brotherhood in our community, and we will never shy away from that. At least I will never shy away from that. I will defend that to the letter, even if it means that, you know what, this is basically the end of whatever you got to do with a regime or people. We don't care. You've listened to Kemo Fati on the discussions on Kid Fati. Kemo works closely with me. We set up Green Up down there. And we support the government in a lot of ways. But the same government turned around because they brought the president's niece as minister, who hated us passionately. And at some point I was like, you know what, dude, deal with it. I have no business with these folks. But we still run our projects and our businesses and things related to what we got to do without the government. And of course we do them successfully. When and where we develop tools for the same government through other, you know, government departments like, you know, water resources and other line departments. Minister Hamulo Munulonga, you know, Soldar Ngani Koko Forestry, you insulted the entire forestry department, calling them they are rude and people who are incompetent. At the end of the day, you turn around and they want to make it look like, oh yeah, the military man is there to instill discipline. Instill discipline where? A man who has no technical capacity, and this is a technical ministry. You just picked somebody who knows nothing. The permanent secretary, they claim, oh, is the son of Sadauda Kairabajawar. Zero technical capacity, because those are folks who were stealing Gambia's resources at, you know, agriculture until they were put in jail. You cannot change the facts. Go. Ya me kuriaral de. Bara mo jama bi ya wol muday wol soron wol ñom mo tapale ni sungol ni mo kurungol fana man soto Gambia. Not everybody that Jame put in prison is innocent. But those are the same people who are now looting our resources at an industrial scale. I hope Barrow basically looks into those matters and understand that. But of course, Barrow, how can Barrow look at it when Barrow he himself is as corrupt as what I cannot imagine? So, you know, that should be it. It's been enough time of conversation. We don't care, again, whatever somebody thinks. But the fact of the matter is that these are things we cannot continue to neglect. They got to come out and they got to be spoken. And of course, they got to be heard. And of course, that is the only way we can forge ahead. Jammeh was actually taking his tribesmen, giving them all positions and all that, yes. But you don't come and then fire people from the army on that basis. And of course, you know, kind of segregate and, you know, discriminate and militarize an entire region simply because what they are Jammeh's tribesmen. What nonsense is that? And then you go there, destroy all their water sources to inject poverty and starvation on them. That is how you want to govern Gambia? If Jammeh was doing wrong, you were supposed to come and correct those wrongs. And of course, bring about equity and sanity in the governance system. But instead, you are doing worse than Jammeh would have done. Because I don't see Jammeh going to other communities, removing their water sources and of course, you know, rendering them waterless and making sure that people actually, you know, starve or their gardens go dry and all that. But the same people would go and tell us that no, you know, this boy is Salif Sajo's son, but Masane Kinte, who was doing all of that, actually is giving another position or another assignment to actually operate on behalf of government, as disgusting as he is. Or that is basically on what your TRRC was actually built on. It is now an us versus you. You bring that up, we take it in good faith, and then we deal with it decisively. It's as simple as that. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and you know, these are continuous conversations. Well, ken do fit daw ken ragalo fi ken dega rek moy dox ci deka bi moy lepp, you know, until Ousainou Bojang's case ceased, maybe probably then we would actually let this platform for you people to continue doing whatever you gotta do. But until then, that dude is in jail, we are going to deal with it as it gets on. It's as simple as that. You know, that is just it. All right, thank you. I don't remember your knowledge. I don't know.